could hear you. I heard you ask Drew, but I couldn't hear him in the booth. So.
Sorry.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. The time is 6:15 p.m. I'm calling to order this special study session of the City Council of the City of Emeryville. I'd like to state for the record that this meeting is being conducted by teleconference pursuant to newly enacted Assembly Bill 361. The city was previously complying with Brown Act orders issued by the governor, which were aimed at containing the novel coronavirus and which expired on September 30th. The new bill gives local agencies the authority to continue to host meetings virtually until January 1st, 2024, as long as California is under a governor-declared state of emergency. In order to continue meeting subject to this exemption to the Brown Act, the City Council must make the following findings by majority vote no later than 30 days after it starts using the exemption and every 30 days thereafter. The legislative body has reconsidered the circumstances of the state of emergency and either, 1, the state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of members to meet safely in person, or 2, state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. The City Council, successor agency, and MESA boards will consider whether to make these findings at our respective meetings later this evening, and at meetings at least every 30 days thereafter until the governor lifts the state of emergency. City Hall is open to the public during regular business hours, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Please check the website for planning and building counter special hours or to make an appointment. The agenda states the public may view this meeting that is being live streamed online and on ETV channel 27 and provide comment by submitting an online comment form, which will then be read into the record by staff. The comment form can be accessed by going to our main City of Emeryville website at emeryville.org and clicking on Council Agendas and Videos. Once there, you will see a link entitled Submit an Online Speaker Card. The public also has the option of participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom and may provide public comment during the meeting using the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press *9. The Zoom call-in information was provided on the posted agenda as well as e-notification and on social media. At this time, I will turn to our clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Here.
And Mayor Martinez.
Here. Colleagues, are there any excuse me. I was getting a little lost in my agenda here. Are there any ex parte communications to share? Member Bowders?
Yeah, I've met with representatives of the public market.
Member Medina?
I met with representatives of the public market, and I also spoke with John Gooding of Quadratic Group.
Very good. And I also met with Mark Stephan from City Center from the Public Market Development. At this time, it's the time for public comment. Anyone who wishes to make comments related to items not on the agenda or on the consent agenda should have submitted your online speaker card by now. 3 minutes will be allowed for the city clerk to read your comments into the record. If you're participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, please press *9. At this time, I will ask the city clerk whether any comments have been received via the online comment card or whether anyone has raised their hand to make audio comments.
I have no online comment cards and I don't see any raised hands, and I'm not sure if I missed it. Did we approve the final agenda?
We did not, and I apologize because I seem to be missing that page on my printout. Nope, I didn't. I just missed it. So,
but no public comment that I see right now.
No public comment. I'll go ahead and close public comment, and I will go ahead and ask my colleagues if I have a motion to approve the final agenda. My apologies for missing this.
I'll move to approve the final agenda.
I second.
I have a motion from Member Bowders, a second from Vice Mayor Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. That brings us to the study session. This is a study session on the Marketplace Redevelopment Project parcels A, B, and F and I will cede the floor to staff to begin the presentation.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Just a tech check. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. And Sherry, if you could please bring up the presentation. And there it is.
One moment while I get it properly displayed.
Okay, so this is a study session for a new marketplace FTP proposal. In terms of background, in August of 2008, the council approved the marketplace PUD PDP, which laid out the site plan, the mix of uses, heights of buildings, and general massing. Next slide, please. So this is the approved PUD PDP. You'll note that the Shellmount Street has been reoriented. There are 2 new streets. There's an expansion of the Christie Park, and then there is development parcels all around it. Next slide, please. Between 2015 and 2020, the Commission approved several FDPs, half of which have been built. So as you know, the Christie Park has been built, all the street work has been done. Parcel D, which is a residential building, has been built, as well as Parcel C, which consists of ground floor commercial building and a wraparound of residential units. Next slide, please. So the 3 parcels, A, B, and F, are the ones which are vacant. For A and B, there are existing entitlements. On parcel A, there's the entitlement for residential building for 185 units. And on parcel B, there's an entitlement of office and lab and parking that was approved in January 2020. No FTP approval yet occurs on parcel F, but that is being proposed at this time, as you will shortly see. Next slide, please. In addition to the existing entitlements in parcel A and B, there is also a development agreement which the council approved back in December 2015, covering a variety of topics, including affordable housing. And the section that pertains here is 7.1, which stipulates that parcel A include 18 affordable units. In addition, this section also states that unless the city finds compelling reasons to the contrary, the affordable units shall be dispersed throughout the development. Next slide, please. So the project proposal in front of you is a new FTP for parcels A, B, and F to replace the existing entitlements. And the proposal consists of 4 buildings, 2 of which are R&D accumulated, which amount to a little over 400,000 square feet, 1 parking structure, and 1 housing building. Next slide, please. So here you see parcel A and B, as well as parcel F on to your right. So there are 3 buildings, like I mentioned. The building to the north is the tallest one. It's 180 feet. The building in the middle is also R&D and is 60 feet. And the parking structure is about 52 feet. Next slide, please. So this shows the ground floor of parcel A and B. As you can see, on parcel B, you have the 2 buildings. The ground floor on the middle building is retail. That's a little over 7,000 square feet. And the ground floor on the taller building consists of conferencing amenities. And then there is back of house functions as well. In between the parking structure and the middle building is where the staircase that connects the bridge comes down, and there's also a bike storage underneath the staircase, and you'll see a little bit more detail shortly. Next slide, please. So the next 3 levels are basically floor plans for the R&D building and the parking structure, and then that changes on the 5th floor. Next slide, please, where the pedestrian connection occurs on the 5th level. And at that level, the middle building, that is the top level, which has a landscape roof and some mechanical equipment. And the parking structure there's open air parking as well as solar panels. Next slide, please. This kind of shows you the building heights of the 3 buildings. Next slide, please. And this gives you this vehicular circulation. All the vehicular car circulation will occur to the south of the site, as you can see. Next slide. And this shows the delivery and trash. Most of the delivery and trash will occur on the north end, but there is also a delivery option between the middle building and the parking structure as seen by blue lines. Next slide, please. And this shows the circulation for bicycles and pedestrians. Next slide, please. This is the view from the east, showing the connection of the bridge to the building. Next slide, please. And this gives you where the stairs land on Shellmount Street. And what you see in the circular under the bridge is where the bike storage is. Fortunately, I can't move my cursor around to give you further explanations, but I think it's pretty self-evident. Next slide, please. And this is a view looking north. Next slide, please. On parcel F, this is a little under 8,000 square foot parcel. They are proposing 10 townhomes and 8 apartment units at the site. Next slide, please. It reaches a height of 55 feet, and there are 4 levels of housing. Next slide, please. And these are the elevations. One showing the Shellmount Street elevation, and the other one the Shellmount Way elevation. Next slide, please. In terms of conformity with general plan and consistency with the approved PUD PDP. In terms of use, the proposal does comply as the general plan designation is MUR, where residential, office, retail uses, and associated parking are permitted. The current proposal is consistent, and office and research lab uses are explicitly stated in the PUD conditions. Next slide, please. There we also have the housing element of the general plan that includes a total of 674 units throughout the marketplace project in its residential site inventory, which is a tool for assessing the city's ability to meet its regional housing needs allocation, or RHNA as it's known popularly. This total includes 225 units on parcel A, whereas the approved FDP for parcel A includes 167 units. And this current proposal in front of you would reduce this number to 0. This is not considered an inconsistency with the general plan. Site inventory is seen as a tool and is not regulatory. Next slide, please. So these are 3 tables essentially showing the uses on parcel A, B, and F that were seen at the PUD, that were approved for the PUD, that were also approved by the FDPs and the current proposal. So essentially what these tables are saying that the current proposal includes more lab than the PUD and the FDP, less retail than the PUD and the approved FDP, and less housing than the PUD and the FDP. Next slide, please. So the most significant deviation of the proposed FDP is the increase in office and lab space to about 2.7 times than what was envisioned in the PUD PDP, and that comes at the expense of housing, which is reduced by 149 units. It should be noted, however, that the condition of approval of the PUD PDP does allow for such a change, provided a revised traffic study and appropriate compliance with CEQA is done. Next slide, please. So staff reviewed this project in April and August. There were several comments made on the staircase, which have by now been addressed by the applicant. Staff questioned the viability of the proposed housing on parcel F from an urban design point of view. They also noted that the city's policies discourage providing all required affordable housing in one building. The building and the fire departments also provided written comments which were attached to the staff report. Next slide, please. This project was reviewed by the commission last week. The commission expressed concern regarding loss of housing on the site, and one commissioner stated that it was a missed opportunity. Another commission suggested to partner with the developer of 5850 Shellmount Street to add housing. At least 2 commissioners were not in favor of a standalone affordable housing building. They noted that the design of the staircase had much improved, and a suggestion for adding seating at the stair landing was expressed. A need for a robust TDM plan was also expressed, but the Commission generally liked the architecture and appreciated the inclusion of green roofs and solar panels. Next slide, please. The BPAC reviewed this project yesterday. The committee liked the grand staircase and also suggested activating the stair landing space by adding chairs and tables. Concerns were expressed about potential conflicts between pedestrians and bikes with the proposed delivery access between the Life Science building and the garage. It was suggested restricting delivery hours as one possible mitigation to address this conflict. A need for a protected bike lane was mentioned, a need to include diversity of different bike racks, electric charging for e-bikes, 2 bike rails on the staircase, and charging for vehicle parking was mentioned. The committee members also mentioned that the applicant should consider designing the garage that would allow repurposing to other uses in the future. Next slide, please. So that concludes my presentations, and these are the questions for the council. Does the council support the required amendments to the PUD, PDP, and the DA as described in the staff report to allow all residential units to be removed from Parcel A and for Parcel F to be developed with a 55-foot tall standalone affordable housing building with 18 units? And are there any additional concessions that the council would prefer in exchange for these amendments? The second question is the council satisfied with the current design treatment of the 4 buildings, including the 2 lab buildings, the parking structure, and the residential building? Does the council believe that the proposed pedestrian bridge connection provides an attractive pathway for the people crossing the railroad? And if the council desires to discuss any other issues? So that concludes my presentation. The applicant does have a presentation as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Colleagues, are there any questions for staff before we hear the applicant's presentation? No? Thank you, Baru. Oh, Member Donahue, go ahead.
Does the change in housing make it so our RENA requirements are going to go up in our city overall if we have this jobs to housing ratio growing, meaning more jobs than housing?
I'm going to let Charlie respond to that.
One moment and I'll bring him up. There he is.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mayor Martinez and City Council members. No, this will not affect our RENA. The RENA is going or has gone through a very rigorous methodology approach that was approved by ABAG. It is in the middle of an appeal process right now. We did not appeal our number, so it is, I believe, 1,815. And that will be for the next 8-year cycle that begins in January of 2023. But current development in the city is not going to affect that number.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff colleagues before we hear the presentation? All right, I will cede the floor to the applicant to go ahead and give their end of the presentation. Sherry, do you have those slides up?
I don't have them up yet, but I'm bringing them up as we speak.
Thank you.
Let's see.
And as a reminder to Mark Steffen and his team, please make your presentation no more than 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Miru. We'll be as expeditious as possible. Also like to thank the council members and Charlie and the rest of the staff for taking the time to review our FDP application. I know it's a complicated project. I am the president of City Center Realty Partners, and I'd like to talk briefly about CCRP's history at the public market, our partnership with Oxford, and then our new vision and design for parcels A, B, and F. As many of you know on the commission or the city council, CCRP acquired the public market in 2012 to convert what was essentially a suburban-style surface park project into a truly urban mixed-use district that provided a multitude of benefits to the community. Next slide, please. Over the last 9 years, CCRP has worked closely with the city to bring this vision into place. Next slide, please. And that's the old vision. Next slide. We have demolished Shell Mound Street and constructed a new Shell Mound Street 120 feet to the west with landscaping and bike lanes, as well as an merry-go-round and AC transit bus shelter. This work has transformed Shell Mound into a two-sided urban street, which is safer for bikes and pedestrians alike at a cost of over $23 million. Next slide, please. We have transformed an AMC movie theater and a parking lot into 223 multifamily units on parcel D and 66 units on parcel C, of which 32 are affordable. The public market is, next slide please. The public market is constructed and delivered in total 479 units, more than any other project in Emeryville, and approximately 40% of the total units constructed, under construction, and approved over the last 10 years. Please note that we have spread affordable housing throughout the projects in parcel D, C, and in F. Next slide, please. We have completely reconstructed and activated the food hall with 16 new vendors and more on the way this fall. These new vendors offer a variety of unique and high quality foods. This includes an ongoing partnership with the nonprofit La Cocina, for which we've provided an ongoing pop-up space for women of color and immigrants in low-income communities to affordably incubate their businesses. This partnership has resulted in award-winning eateries such as Numbai Cambodia, Minnie Bell's Soul Movement, and Mommy Lemise. Importantly, we've worked closely with our tenants to help them survive the serious impacts of COVID on their business. I'm very happy to say that we've not lost one vendor during the pandemic. Next slide, please. CCRP worked closely with the community to develop a new and improved Christie Park. We donated a half acre of land to the city in order to increase the size of Christie Park by over 50%. We added a dog park, a children's play area, and other amenities to move Christie Park from a beleaguered, underused parcel to its place today, a treasured, fun outdoor space at a cost of over $5 million, not including land value. Next slide, please. The final pieces to complete the public market district are parcels A, B, and F. As Miru stated in her presentation, CCRP obtained entitlements for a life science project for parcel B and a residential project for parcel A several years ago. We hoped the residential could be built. Unfortunately, due to economic conditions, our partner at the time, Avalon Bay, would not proceed with the construction of multifamily on parcel A. Avalon has built and leased multifamily housing on parcel D and C and projects throughout the Bay Area. Avalon was acutely aware of the costs and revenues to be derived from building new residential product on parcel A and would not build at an economic loss. While CCRP hoped for residential, we also could not construct multifamily at a loss given the $28 million of benefits we've already contributed to the public market district. This has been, there has been much discussion about RHNA requirements. In a perfect world, I'm sure the city would like us to build the approved residential plan for parcel A. We understand the housing need, but we can't lose more money on this project. And we feel that we've already made a sizable contribution to the housing needs at the public market with 479 units. If the city determines that housing is the only use that would be appropriate for parcel A, we would most likely build the approved FDP for parcel B and leave parcel A as it currently stands. All that said, with Avalon out, we needed to find a new partner that shared our vision to complete the mixed-use district with alternative uses that would provide demand to sustain our food hall and retail offering. After a lengthy search, we found that partner, Oxford Properties. Working together, we've created a new design which will provide 406,000 square feet of life science, 7,000 additional square feet of retail, 20 residential units, and just as important, creating more than 800 well-paying jobs to support our food hall. I would now like to introduce to you Ofer Zur of Oxford Properties to provide background on his company and the reasons for the new design. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mark, and thank you, Maru. And I'd also like to thank the City Council for your time to discuss the public market project tonight. I'm Ofer Zer with Oxford Properties Group, and we're very excited to meet with you as the new owners of the site and to discuss the opportunity to work with the city on the development of the final piece of this mixed-use district. As a bit of background on Oxford Properties Group, we're the real estate arm of OMERS, or the Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement System, a Canadian pension fund representing more than 500,000 local government employees. As part of our commitment to those employees, we look beyond our assets to truly engage and collaborate with the communities where we invest. We also pursue best-in-class assets and seek to create exceptional places, which is what drew us to the public market opportunity. Public market's existing components, in particular the food hall, already play an important role in the city, and we think that a thoughtful build-out of the remaining parcels, including the connection to the pedestrian bridge, and increased green space and artwork can complete the district, add to the area's vibrancy as the heart of Emeryville, and serve as a great asset for us, the city, and the community. Next slide, please. We are meeting with you today to review the new proposed development scheme. We certainly recognize the time and effort that was involved in the prior approvals on this site, so we've worked very hard to make some changes while staying within the established goalposts. The previously approved building on Parcel B had lab space above parking, which created several issues. In the design that HDR will present shortly, you'll see that separating the two uses is mutually beneficial for the tenants and for the community. It allows us to complete construction faster, including faster delivery of the new parking to the patrons of the food hall and retail. It improves the parking access and removes that access and those cars from Shellmount Street. And it allows greater view corridors for our neighbors and the public, and adds outdoor green space and landscaping, as Bionic will describe in greater detail. Regarding Parcel A, and as Mark described, the market rate residential is no longer economically feasible, but we have incorporated the affordable housing units stipulated by the development agreement. Absent the development agreement, this project would have been required to pay affordable housing in lieu fees of $1.9 million, similar to other projects approved or being considered by the city. By providing 18 affordable units instead of in lieu fees, and based on our understanding that the city's cost to build new affordable units is approximately $700,000 per unit, our proposed investment in affordable housing is $12.6 million, 6 times higher than the in lieu fees, and brings the public market district's residential unit count up to almost 500. When combined with the $28 million of public market investment mentioned by Mark earlier, the total community investment by this mixed-use district would be more than $40 million. In addition, we recognize the importance of the residential component to the overall district. Similar to how affordable units were integrated into the residential buildings on other public market parcels, we looked at many options for locating the residential units, including on Parcel A. Ultimately, we think that we have come up with a much better alternative. By locating the residential units in a new building on Parcel F, we have separated the residential from the parking and provided significantly better layouts and light to the great benefit of the residents. The standalone building will allow us to deliver what we think will be some of the highest quality affordable housing units in the city. We also think the new building will serve as an attractive gateway to the public market district. That being said, we recognize the city's focus on the total residential unit count, and we are open to alternate solutions. For example, instead of proceeding with the residential building on Parcel F, we could contribute the projected cost of that building towards the completion of affordable housing on city-owned parcels. Our understanding is that the city's contribution is approximately $450,000 per unit in today's dollars. So the $12.6 million estimate that I mentioned earlier could fund 28 units. We look forward to the council's feedback on this topic. As you'll see in HDR's presentation, we have made some important and mutually beneficial tweaks to the completion of an exceptional mixed-use district that will flourish with the addition of new life science space and deliver substantial benefits to the city and the community. And we think we have done so in a way that respects all of the work and approvals that came before us. I'd like to now introduce Tom Fortier with HDR to walk through the proposed project vision and design.
Thank you, Ofer, Maru, and members of the City Council. Next slide, please. The vision here is to create an active, urban, pedestrian-friendly marketplace. It includes the 2 life science office buildings with retail, public spaces, a parking structure, on the right, which serves all of the public market district, and an enhanced pedestrian experience throughout the site, and to the bridge, which accesses Amtrak and properties to the east of the tracks. The character of the development references clues from the historic industrial character of the district itself. The 8-story building is articulated with vertical bays of steel and glass, breaking up the massing of the building, with similar materials articulating the 4-story building to the right. Their entries are co-located at the corners of each, directly across from the public market entry. The residential is on parcel F behind this. Next, please. I'd like to briefly compare this to prior approvals for the preliminary development plan and the final development plan, which is below in blue. The massing has been intentionally distributed along the sites to fall within the approved height limits, with specific hierarchy of importance and priority placed on the open space for the pedestrian access from the east side of the tracks and the bridge. This offers view corridors to the bay and enhances the pedestrian experience. Next, please. Equally important is the connection to the open space network. The proposed final phase of this development includes open space, which is greater in area than that defined in the PDP. The improvements made here to the infrastructure and the public plaza of the area where the pedestrian experience is capitalizes on the investment that's made by CCRP and the city in the previous construction. Next, please. There's a public plaza being developed at the base of the stairs. It's a major draw and collection point for arrivals and departures to the public market. This is a transit-oriented district. It is here at this location that commuting on foot, by bike, by bus, and rail, including vehicular access to the parking structure with the elevators right to the right in that blue element, all come down to this public plaza on Shellmount Street. This again, the stair descends right through the view corridor. It's open, gracious, inviting, and can house multiple functions and activities throughout the seasons during the year. Next, please. The development really has no backside. The east view has the same vertical expression of bay windows that face the east and the same or similar articulation on the podium. The lower massing of the parking structure receives the pedestrian route from the bridge, which comes over the tracks into the public market district. Next, please. If we focus on that area itself, it's another collection point. You can see that there's intercommunicating stairs to the garage, and it's at that point that you have a choice, and pedestrians and those on bikes, as to how you descend into the entry of the public market district. It's well populated, well lit, with visual surveillance from the bridge, Shellmount Street, and the neighboring properties around. Next, please. At this point at the top landing, you can go down the stair with your bike in a bike rail if you wish, or choose the ADA route on the left, which takes you directly to the elevators at the end of that walkway down onto the public plaza fronting the street. Next, please. The parking structure is articulated with similar industrial scaled character, incorporating landscaping on the facades facing the south and the east to soften and add visual interest to the development. There are photovoltaic arrays on the roof, providing a renewable energy source and shade for the automobiles up there. Next, please. This is an elevation of what was submitted in our first submission for the 18 units. It's a work in progress. This is not the final, but the design will be consistent with parcels C and D, the character therein. Initially, we submitted 18 units, and since we've investigated opportunities to increase the number of units to 20. But to tag on to what Ofer and Marcus said regarding the residents on this parcel F, we believe that this can be a unique residential community. It affords light and view on all 4 sides of the building, and inevitably a better quality environment for the residents therein. Next, please. There are 20 units, all affordable, 5 1-bedroom, 10 2-bedroom, and 5 3-bedroom, with 15 total units family friendly. The lower level, which is the upper row on the left, access entry from Shell Mountain Street, and the upper levels 2 through 5 enter the building on the left with an elevator lobby and bringing you up to a corridor on the west side of the building. Next, please. I'd now like to introduce you to Dorka Keene with Keene on Art.
Good evening, City Council members and members of the public. It's a pleasure to be here to provide a brief overview of the market's public art program. As you may know, the city requires a public art master plan for development projects. We developed an initial plan that was reviewed and approved by the city's Public Art Committee and General Manager in July 2020. As the life science building and parking structure have gone through significant changes, we will be returning to the Public Art Committee to review new locations, types of art in the pool of potential artists. The goals and curatorial vision that you see here are all from the initial plan and will not change. They reflect the vision of the developers as well as the city's art master plan and the Shellmont District Art Plan. On the left is a rendering of the artwork that will go in Christie Park by local artist Sophie Ramos that I think is a wonderful articulation of these goals. Next slide, please. The total public art budget is approximately $4 million. The previously approved locations noted in blue are Christie Park, the Public Market Courtyard, and the Stairwell Plaza. The new locations noted in red are on the north side of the Life Science building and the south side of the parking structure. These will serve to welcome those who will work, live, and visit the Public Market District. I'm now going to hand it over to Sarah Moss Thompson from Bionic, who will be discussing the landscaping of the project.
Thank you, Dorka. And next slide, please. My name is Sarah Moose Thompson with Bionic, and we are the project's landscape architect. For this tight urban site, our team is using urban landscape solutions to transform the existing vast parking lot, narrow sidewalks, and uninviting pedestrian bridge into a vibrant, activated, and connected public realm. We understand from your general plan that this is a pedestrian priority district at the city core. Based on this, the team's landscape priority is to create comfortable spaces for people, bicycles, plants, and pollinators that are active and safe day, night, and year round. The public realm will bring new, inviting, publicly accessible plazas for tenants and employees, as well as for community members and visitors. The spaces will offer a variety of public amenities and flexible seating for a range of programming and use, as well as garden-like spaces with native and adapted plants that are integrated into the streetscape and building facades for intrigue and to soften urban edges. Next slide, please. We also understand from your general plan that this site is a critical node to connect Emeryville together. The proposed plazas, wide sidewalks, open-air stairs and bike rails, designated bicycle lanes and bike racks, and bus stop are strategically located to be a multimodal transit hub with a highly visible connection across the bridge to Amtrak and the Emeryville Greenway to the east, a direct connection to the Christie Park to the west, and an expansion to the extensive Emeryville open space and bicycle networks. The streetscape improvements are designed to prioritize pedestrians and bicycles, including safe crossings along the entire corridor. The design expands upon the existing durable materials palette and includes a new set of streetscape furnishings to create interactive public spaces, to serve as a complement to the building architecture, and to tie this entire district together as one connected, attractive, and iconic addition to the city. Now I'm going to hand it back to Ofer to conclude our presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Next slide, please. This image shows the central hub with the proposed grand stair and public plaza. Again, we'd like to thank you all for your time tonight and look forward to engaging in a discussion about our plans.
Thank you. Colleagues, are there any clarifying questions for our presenters? Member Donahue?
We recently offered an incentive for using cross-laminated timber, partly as a way to store carbon, but potentially, I think, have you looked at different kinds of building materials like this?
We've considered it for the residential building. We're just looking into it now, but we haven't finished our analysis, but we're gathering information on it.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. If there are no other clarifying questions, I will open up public comment on this item. Now is the time for public comment. Anyone who wishes to make comments related to this item should have submitted your online speaker card by now. 3 minutes will be allowed for the city clerk to read your comments into the record. If you're participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press *9. And at this time, I will turn to our clerk to see if anyone has submitted electronic comments.
I have no online speaker cards, and I don't see any raised hands at this time.
Okay, very good. I will go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to my colleagues for discussion.
Oh, one moment. I just saw a hand go up. I don't know if it made it under the wire.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Let's grant this speaker 3 minutes.
Okay, Cynthia, unmute and go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Cynthia Truelove. I live in the terraces at 5855 Horton, and I would just like to say that I commend the team on what I think is an improved design, understanding that there is less residential than some would want, but I also think the design flow and honoring of our investment in the view shed, as well as making it very public friendly, particularly improving the pedestrian overpass. It all provides for a much improved combination. So thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. All right, I see no further hands raised, so we'll go ahead and close public comment at this time. And we'll bring it back to my colleagues. Colleagues, there's a set of questions before us. I'm wondering if anyone has any just general comments that they'd like to make before we address the questions. All right, so the questions are, the number one is considering the amendment to the PUD/PDP and the development agreement. It's a long question, bear with me. Does the council support the required amendments to the PUD, PDP, and development agreement as described above to allow all residential units to be removed from parcel A and for parcel F to be developed with a 55-foot tall standalone affordable housing building with 18 units? Are there additional concessions that the City Council would prefer in exchange for the development agreement amendments? And I will just cite that the applicant did mention in their presentation possibly contributing $12.6 million into our affordable housing fund rather than build housing on parcel F, if that's what the council wishes. So I'll open this up for comment and deliberation on this first question. Does anyone want to kick it off? I can start with my framing comments if folks are good with that. I just had the opportunity to watch the Planning Commission meeting where the same presentation was given, and I had met with the developer in the previous week, and as I predicted, Planning Commission had expressed disappointment in losing housing on parcel A. That two the members said, I think they put it well by saying it didn't sit well with them to have housing replaced with parking, and I couldn't agree more. At the same time, I do recognize CCRP as a longtime partner in creating really valuable amenities and projects in our community, and bringing, the 400 something units of housing that they have already brought to the parcels that have already been developed. I did find it an interesting proposal that a Planning Commission member mentioned the possibility of partnering with 5850 to provide housing. 5850 Shell Mound, which is another piece of land that needs to be developed and is being asked to consider housing as well. So those are my overarching comments. But as staff noted, that site inventory is a tool and it's not regulatory. So I don't know how much leeway we have as a council to say, like, we're only going to accept housing on parcel A. So I don't know if that's my answer to the first question, but it's not really, do I support a PUD PDP amendment? Who would like to weigh in next? Vice Mayor Donahue.
What might be a put-off of all affordable housing in one building. I don't feel that way about it for that particular site and building, partly because something that you can see, the amount of light and the scale of the property makes for what I think would be a good community. Everyone would virtually know everyone else in the property, and I think that would yield a better kind of community than often are very large multifamily housing units where people actually don't know so many people of their neighbors. And the uniqueness of that design and that purpose and that site, I think, would be a good thing for our city. And yes, it's disappointing to lose that original all housing design, but I do appreciate the overall look and feel of how project massing allows for more space when crossing the bridge, and of course our other residents having not the boxed in feeling of some of the earlier designs. So I appreciate that as well. Also, I want to give a shout out to the idea of a conference center being a good idea. There's so many needed gathering spaces in Emeryville to have, sort of smaller scale conferences, and I think that concept of having that in the main biotech building is a great idea.
Great, thank you, Vice Mayor Donahue. Member Bowders, are you prepared to comment?
I would like to hear from Member Medina first, if she's okay with that.
Of course. I share your thoughts, Mayor Martinez. I watched the Planning Commission and spoke to the applicant, and they heard this from me already. But yeah, no one's really excited about losing 150 units of housing in obviously a housing crisis when we have our RENA goals, which are to build more housing. On the other side, we can't force them to build housing versus leave us a parking lot, right? And a parking lot is not helping our city out. So I'm not excited about the Leave Parcel A parking lot plan, as much as I am not a fan of removing 150 units of market rate housing from the equation, roughly. So I think I am interested in discussing the affordable units, whether or not there's a way to look at city sites as a possible alternative and use those funds in a creative way to build larger and more housing. I kind of do agree with the comments of some of the planning commissioners that it just feels like a very isolated little building, but I am hearing the benefits, the lighting and design there. So I think I'd say I'm open to it. I'd be more open to having a robust conversation about like what those other concessions or things could be, so we could see like a vision that we can actually be excited about this project. Because right now I think we're all just probably a little disappointed to lose this much housing off of a project.
Thank you. Member Bowders?
Thanks. Yeah, I think to me, the way I analyze this question, the threshold question is whether or not we want to eliminate a prior decision to include a significant number of housing units on this site. And what I've heard everybody say is they're open to doing that so far. I was really curious because 2 of the current members of the council voted to make that an inclusion requirement in 2015 with the development agreement and include these 18 units. And so I wanted to see first where those council members were, since this was a prior item they had discussed. And if there's a consensus that we should forego these housing units, the construction of them on parcel A for the reasons noted about they won't be built, that there would be the obligation still to, the hook we have, so to speak, is that there's the 18 units that have to be constructed to do parcels A and B. And so the proposal is, do we like parcel F or not? I mean, we can go back and forth about parcel F before they could build anything else to get those 18 units if we really wanted to. But I'll be very honest with you that I disagree with the vice mayor insofar as I don't believe that that is an ideal site for a housing building. I think that is an extremely non-family friendly location for 18 units of housing, that corner, adjacent to an overpass within a tenth of a mile from a freeway exit. I just don't think it is an ideal location for a standalone affordable housing building. And I think it actually is a disservice to this neighborhood because it makes affordable housing appear to be an afterthought in this project. So I don't think it's actually a great idea to do parcel F has been proposed. So if the consensus is that we are interested in changing the uses, then my suggestion and ask would be that I think the developer has made some initial statements about offering money. I will be honest, I didn't agree with some of the presentation from the applicant. I understand $28 million, but the applicant bargained for and requested to move the road. $23 million of that $28 million is the road, which the developer at the time said, we want to move it because retail facing retail will actually be more profitable for us. So realigning the road was their initiative and their goal. So it is a public asset at this point, but I just want to recharacterize where we're at. Yes, City Center has been a great partner in delivering a very high quality product where they have done this work. But to our friends at Oxford, welcome to our city. Looking forward to working with you. I think that for me, the valuation of those 18 units, because that is a bargain for exchange that I think needs to be taken into a serious conversation in a closed session probably. To me, the amount of money the city would spend per door on a unit and leverage other funds this is something that the developer was supposed to construct. And so I think we need to have a conversation about how that's evaluated first, so the developer has an idea and understanding of what a trade-off would be in order to make this transition away, so that we don't give up what we committed to the city when we signed the developer agreement in 2015. So those are my comments on that item.
Okay, thank you. The next item is the design of the buildings. Is council satisfied with the current design treatment of the buildings? And I know that we're not accepting that we're necessarily going to build housing on parcel F and have a parking structure on parcel A. Or are folks, okay, wait, just to rewind for a second. So parcel F, we haven't come to a consensus that should be housing. And I agree, I don't think that that's an ideal solution to this problem. And I look forward to hearing more solutions from the developer. But in terms of parcel A, are we conceding that the residential units could be removed from parcel A while we deal with the 18 units that are in the development agreement, which may be 20 units if they end up on parcel F? Member Medina.
I don't know if I'm prepared to make that concession until we have like a plan for the housing.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So we're looking at this holistically. So in terms of, does anyone have any comments on the design of the buildings for any buildings that they're comfortable commenting on at this time? Member Bowders.
I want to agree with the public commenter that I think the overall design of this particular FDP is superior to the prior iterations. I saw this project when I was a planning commissioner years ago, and I think that this design, the initial drawings of it at least, are superior to the other iterations that came before it. So I think this is, if we go forward with A and B in this, the baseline concept that's been presented is something I feel we can work with. Any other comments, colleagues? I'll agree with those comments. I think that these are nice looking buildings. They appear to be well thought out. I want to be appreciative of the bicycle parking prominently featured. If parcel A goes forward as planned, as proposed tonight, I think this was a thoughtful presentation, so I don't have any further comments on the buildings. Number 3 is design of the staircase. Does the council believe that the proposed pedestrian bridge connection provides an attractive pathway for people crossing the railroad? Member Medina.
I'd actually like to thank the applicant for the thoughtfulness with which they considered the staircase improvements. I think the widening of it, I think that the bike rail going down the middle, these are all fantastic elements that will make the space more usable. I love the platform with the bike parking. I was fortunate enough to have a chance to hear BPAC's reactions to this last night. BPAC similarly was really excited about the bike parking, but also wanted to see some more right in front of the storefronts. So I do think this is a really thoughtful bike and pedestrian element. One comment that I got from BPAC that I think is really relevant is that in front of where the staircase comes down, we very much need to make sure there's absolutely no physical way that people can block that by parking in front of it. Which, you know, if you give cars an opportunity, they're going to try to park in front of literally anything. So I think my suggestion was that they talked a little bit about some kind of bollard design that would absolutely prevent people from blocking that. But otherwise, yeah, I think it's a great improvement.
Great. All right, we're on to other issues. Does council desire to discuss any other issues with the proposed project? And I'll start with Vice Mayor Donahue.
I just wanted to say about the staircase that I really appreciated it too. And I think that the plaza would be primarily a pedestrian bike oriented place, because if it's a secondary delivery option and not cars going in and out of parking, it would make it a usable public space. So that seems good and well thought out.
Very good, thank you. Member Bowders?
Yeah, I was wondering if Sherry could put up one image from the applicant's presentation of the view looking at the two buildings from essentially the public market side of the street.
Okay, guide me.
So that's perfect, actually. Yeah, thank you so much, Sherry. Okay, so I do have one other element that's not listed in the questions for discussion that I think we should ask of this applicant as a consideration. And Member Medina got really close to it. So if you look at this image here, you have this, and Member Donahue also said this, you have this really depicted with tons of people. And this is really what I hope I see in real life someday. Beautiful, beautiful public plaza type of space with a really, it really like allows the staircase to stand out. And in the map design, the circulation design, that little brick drive is actually a delivery space, and it is kind of in conflict with these open doors to a bike room and all that stuff, because there's going to be some giant truck there that's not in this picture. And I have two suggestions that I'd like to ask the applicant if they would be interested in responding to. One is, I believe that the current bike lane northbound on Shellmount Street, it comes out, as you see it here, from being separated away from the cars, like curbside with space between the travel lane, the parking lane is between it, the bus island is between it, and then it comes out and it actually rides between the travel lane and the parking lane again. And that is a highly disfavored design for bicycle safety. And there's a large parking garage, standalone parking garage going here now that the applicant wants us to do in lieu of housing. And so I really think that if you're going to increase the number of people who are working here, which will be more than what would have lived there, I really think that we need to make a request to do two things. One, I think we need to ask to remove the parking on the northbound side of the street and to actually have the bicycle lane be protected down that side of the street. And the applicant can do other things with those parking spaces to the extent that they're not incompatible with engineering and design, like make parklets, other things. But I think we need to have a separated bicycle path in front of this space that's not going to be accessible to delivery trucks. They won't park in a single drive lane. They just don't do that. So they will actually use the delivery bays that the applicant has told us about. I'm really tired of other buildings in this city not having and getting its delivery people to use their delivery bays and instead blocking pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. And then I think the other component is this lane here was a real hard spot for me. I actually think we should put retractable bollards between the travel lane and the bike lane, the car travel lane and the bike lane, along Shellmount Street. So no vehicle can pull up and half park in the bike lane or whatever, and that there be bollards at the back as well, and that they only be open for delivery during certain times of the day, and they be accessible to public safety folks, or they can be opened manually by a building security person if there's a need for a special delivery and there's special circumstances or whatnot, or events, things like that. But if this is really going to look like this, from 5 years of experience as a council member and additional years as a planning commissioner, this never happens because people fail to put the infrastructure in place that lets it happen. And so I think this is a beautiful image, and I would really love to see this in my city, but it won't happen if there aren't infrastructure pieces to make it happen. And that means removing the parking lane so we don't have tons of cars and trucks blocking the space and making a hazard for pedestrians and bicyclists who won't come here if they feel unsafe, and then actually closing this lane with retractable safety bollards that are accessible for emergency and delivery only. So I'd be interested if the applicant has thoughts on that, if they are, because I think those should be conditions.
Yes, Member Bowder, we can certainly do both of those things. We've discussed internally about the opportunity to put in bollards, retractable bollards, to block off the entrance to that driveway. And so we can certainly do that. And we've also looked at the opportunity to convert the parking spaces on Shell Mound on the east side there to parklets, and then put up some kind of bollard or something to separate the bike lane between the car traffic lane. Does that meet your request?
That would be exactly what I'm looking for. So I see Vice Mayor Donahue giving me a thumbs up. So sounds like, and Allie, everybody. So it looks like if you brought us back a design that had those elements, I can just tell you I would be over the moon about this proposal and this element in particular. Thank you very much.
Well, great, we can do that. Thank you.
Member Medina, you had further comments on this?
Strongly support that. No surprise that Member Bowders and I had a similar vision for a protected bike lane. My one slight addition to that would ask that there's a protected intersection across that delivery area as well.
We can do that.
Thank you so much.
And I'll just weigh in myself that in addition to these active transit measures, TDM measures in support of buses. You've heard this in the Planning Commission meeting. It's a transit-rich area, and we want to encourage that amount of people walking, biking, taking transit in this area. So appreciate the bike parking that's being considered. We'll love to see what that looks like when it's fleshed out. But I appreciate my colleagues' comments as well. So that brings us.
Madam Mayor,
yes.
Sorry. I just had one other quick item, which was just that there was one slide about landscaping, and I just want to. There was a word about pollinators, and we say it all the time. I would just really love to see if the design team for this would give consideration to that roof of that bike shelter being a butterfly wildflower area. There's a lot of native wildflowers, and it's kind of in a place that's a little wind protected, being lower and behind the staircase. I actually think there is an immense opportunity to do something that would benefit the neighborhood that way. So I just wanted to say, I heard you say that, and I hope to see greater detail in the future how you're hoping to accomplish that, because I think that's an excellent thing.
Great. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Colleagues, are there any other last bits of information that you'd like to relay to the developer? And seeing none, are there any questions from the Oxford CCRP team of council regarding any of the feedback that we've given?
I have a question as to how do we move the dialogue along to talk about alternative means or funding for the residential? What would be the next steps?
Madam City Manager.
Madam Mayor, if I could make a suggestion, I think I heard Councilmember Bowers articulate the question pretty succinctly, which is it's about valuation and how that's calculated. I think he was a little more eloquent than that. But perhaps if the council is interested in the applicant pursuing an alternate approach, staff could meet with them and have conversations about that question about the valuation of those units and how that valuation could be applied.
Yes. Okay. Am I seeing a consensus amongst my colleagues?
Clarification that we would get that information in a closed session, Madam City Manager.
I don't know that there's a property interest here that would substantiate a closed session, but we can think about the best way to convey that information to the council.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All right. Well, I will thank staff and thank the applicants for their presentation this evening. And thank you, colleagues, for all of your great comments. And we're ready to go ahead and bring this meeting to adjournment. The time is 7:20 p.m. And when staff is ready, I'll go ahead and call the next meeting to order.
One moment, please. Let me see, is there anybody else? Okay, go ahead.
Very good, thank you. One question for you, Sherry. So we have on our agendas the consideration of the Assembly Bill 361 items, but we don't have a MESA meeting tonight, correct?
No, we do have a MESA meeting. That should be, that should be your next meeting.
Okay, I apologize. I think I just missed out on one of the agendas. So you'll bear with me. I will make sure to open that. Yeah, I just printed out 4. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That answers my question. And did you say you're ready to go?
I am ready. Thank you.
Okay, very good. The time is 7:21 p.m. Welcome, everybody. I am calling to order the Management of Emeryville Services Authority of the City of Emeryville, also known as MESA. And if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read some introductory remarks. I'd like to state for the record that this meeting is being conducted by teleconference pursuant to the newly enacted Assembly Bill 361. The city was previously complying with Brown Act orders issued by the governor, which were aimed at containing the novel coronavirus and which expired on September 30th. This new bill gives local agencies the authority to continue to host virtual meetings until January 1st, 2024, as long as California is under the governor-declared state of emergency. In order to continue meeting subject to this exemption to the Brown Act, the City Council must make the following findings by majority vote no later than 30 days after it starts using the exemption and every 30 days thereafter. The legislative body has considered the circumstances of the state of emergency and either 1, the state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of members to meet safely in person, or 2, state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. The City Council, successor agency, and MESA board will consider whether to make these findings at our respective meetings tonight, including this one, and at meetings at least every 30 days thereafter, until the governor lifts the state of emergency. City Hall is open to the public during regular business hours, 9 to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Please check the website for planning and building counter special hours or to make an appointment. The agenda states that the public may view the meeting that is being live streamed online and on ETV and provide comment by submitting an online comment form, which will then be read into the record by staff. The comment form can be accessed by going to our main City of Emeryville website at emeryville.org and clicking on Council Agendas and Videos. Once there, you will see a link entitled Submit an Online Speaker Card. The public also has the option of participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom and may provide public comment during the meeting using the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press *9. The Zoom call-in information was provided on the posted agenda, as well as e-notification and on social media. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Here.
And Mayor Martinez.
Here. Colleagues, do I have a motion and a second on approval of the final agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Member Medina and a second by Vice Mayor Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. And are there any ex parte communications on this? Okay, seeing none, that'll bring us to the public comment portion of this meeting. Now is the time for public comment. Anyone who wishes to make comments related to items not on the agenda or on the consent agenda should have submitted your online speaker card by now. 3 minutes will be allowed for the city clerk to read your comments into the record. If you are participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press *9. At this time, I will ask the city clerk whether any comments have been received via the online comment card, or whether anyone has raised their hand to make audio comments.
I have no comment cards and there are no raised hands at this time.
Very good. Seeing no additional comments, the public comment portion of this meeting is now closed. That brings us to our consent calendar. Colleagues, do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Member Medina, a second by Vice Mayor Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez?
Aye. That passes unanimously. There are no action items tonight, so this meeting is adjourned at 7:25. And when I get the green light, we will begin the next meeting.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, the time is 7:26, and I am calling to order the City of Emeryville as successor agency to the Emeryville Redevelopment Agency. And my introductory comments still stand, and we are all still here. So I'll move to item 3, which is approval of the final agenda. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Member Medina and a second by Vice Mayor Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez?
Aye. Any ex parte communications? Seeing none. Now is the time for public comment. Anyone who wishes to make comments related to items not on the agenda or on the consent agenda should have submitted your online speaker card by now. 3 minutes will be allowed for the city clerk to read your comments into the record. If you are participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press star 9. At this time, I will ask the city clerk whether any comments have been received via the online comment card, or whether anyone has raised their hands to make audio comments.
No comment cards and no raised hands.
All right, seeing no public comment is now closed. And that'll bring us to our consent calendar. Colleagues, do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Member Medina, a second by Vice Mayor Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez?
Aye. And we have no action items tonight, so this meeting is adjourned at 7:27. And that'll bring us to our main event. I will wait till the clerk lets us know they're ready.
Okay, we are all set.
Thank you. Are we good with the introductory remarks and roll call?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So good evening, everyone. The time is 7:28, and I'm calling to order the regular city council meeting of the city of Emeryville. We are all still here, and the remarks I made for the previous 2 meetings still stand regarding the Brown Act and teleconferencing. Colleagues, for the final agenda, I do need to remove item 10.6 from consent and move it into action items. So if I could make that change and make that motion for the final agenda. The reason that we need to do that is to assign an ad hoc committee to work with Clifford Moss on our polling.
Second the mayor's motion.
Okay, so there's a motion by myself and a second by Member Bouders. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Bouders? Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez?
Aye. Special orders of the day. Please give me a moment. I need to open this proclamation. This is our first proclamation this year, and my first and only one as mayor this term. So please bear with me. I've been asked to do many proclamations, but I thought this was a good catch-all one if I was going to do only one this whole year. So proclaiming November 14th through 20th, 2021 as United Against Hate Week in the city of Emeryville. Whereas the United States is a nation of immigrants whose strength comes from its diversity, whereas the Constitution of the United States confers equality on all individuals regardless of race, gender, orientation, religion, or political beliefs, and whereas political policies and rhetoric have generated a toxic environment that can encourage the propagation of racist, xenophobic, anti-Semitic, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic, and other negative views emboldened by hate groups and individuals. Whereas deep divisions within our country are the result of extreme ideology, further strengthening a cycle of distrust and suspicion fueled by fear, anxiety, and insecurity. And whereas the number of hate crimes across the United States has increased dramatically over the past few years, and whereas the City Council of the City of Emeryville stands strongly in support of our diverse community, honoring and protecting every individual regardless of race, creed, color, gender, religion, ethnicity, nationality, orientation, or identity. And whereas education, compassion, and cooperation are key to unlocking understanding and embracing differences between people. And whereas in 2018, the city of Emeryville devoted a peace poll in City Hall as a way to celebrate United Against Hate Week and to serve as a daily reminder of our commitment to being a welcoming community. And whereas the city of Emeryville seeks to join other communities locally and around the state in recognizing United Against Hate Week as an important step in bridging divisions, as well as strengthening our communities. Now, therefore, it be proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Emeryville hereby proclaims the week of November 14th through 20th, 2021 as United Against Hate Week, and hereby recognizes that it is an important step in bridging divisions and healing communities. Proclaimed this second day of November 2021 by the Mayor of Emeryville. All right, thanks for your patience on that one, folks. That will bring us to item number 5. This is announcement of commission and committee vacancies.
Good evening, and as I've announced at previous meetings, we are currently in an open recruitment phase to fill unexpected vacancies on the Mosquito Abatement District for Alameda County. We need 1 resident for that. The Budget Advisory Committee has an opening for a business representative with a term ending in June of 2022. The Commission on Aging has an opening for a community member, and the Public Art Committee has 1 business representative or resident term open. The applications are due by close of business on Monday, November 22nd, and the appointments are scheduled to be made at the December 21st City Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. That brings us to item 6. This is council member special announcements and reports on meeting attendance. Any member Medina?
Yes. The moment my attention goes away from so I attended the East Bay EDA meeting, and I'd like to emphasize for us all, we should consider flying out of Oakland Airport. That was their big ask. We should all be flying out of Oakland Airport. They desperately need us to fly in and out of Oakland Airport. That is the economic revitalization this region needs.
Member Bowders?
I fly Oakland, so I guess I'm okay. I just wanted to remind the public and anyone who's interested that I will be leaving as part of the United States subdelegation to COP26 in Glasgow, Scotland in just under 48 hours. And I will be doing a almost daily media broadcast. It will be at 10 a.m. Pacific time beginning next week to answer questions from members of the public or community groups that want to learn more about what's happening in the climate discussions. And in particular on Wednesday of next week, which is Transportation Day at the conference, I will be attending the Scottish Sustainability National Forum on Sustainability for Transportation. And if any members here have questions about what is working in the United Kingdom that you'd like me to share, this is your opportunity and invitation to email me any questions you'd like me to ask leaders in the United Kingdom and elsewhere in the world about sustainable transportation.
Member Medina.
To clarify, Councilmember Vatters has programmed this based on my understanding of time zones for prime happy hour every single day.
I think I think you go to the media for 30 minutes and then you go to happy hour. That's usually how it works.
Well, happy travels, and I hope you stay dry, safe, and actually make it inside of some of the panels. Understanding all of the COVID restrictions that are happening.
I will be giving a panel, for those who actually want to follow it online, I will be giving a panel presentation. It will air at 2 a.m. local time here.
Yes.
I'm giving a panel at the International Pavilion on equity and social justice lenses in determining ways to regulate environmental pollutants in communities of color.
And would we just find that on the COP26 website?
I will ask the Air District tomorrow in my last briefing to give me the website link for where those things are held so that people can see that if they'd like, yeah.
Very good, thank you. And
You're
please
welcome.
share that on all your social media and we'll look out for it.
All right.
Okay, any other meetings to report on, colleagues? I was able to attend the League of California Cities East Bay Division dinner along with Councilmember Bowders, and I was pleased by the presentations from Tesla Angel at ACTC and her colleague, the executive director at the Contra Costa Transportation Committee, and I was pleased by all of the bike lanes and bus only lanes that they showed in their presentation, and I'm very excited about the work that's being done on San Pablo corridor. So I want to thank Member Bowders for his participation on that committee, and Member Medina for her service as an alternate. I couldn't be more excited about the direction that these counties are headed on that shared corridor. That will bring us to the city manager's report. Is there a city manager's report this evening?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly, I wanted to take an opportunity to thank our public works maintenance crews for an incredible job during the atmospheric river, I guess that's the new term, for a giant rainstorm that came not this past weekend, but the weekend before. The pre-work that they did to prepare for that, and then also the additional hours that they put in over the weekend responding and being really proactive, I think stood our city, our little town in good stead. And I really just want to thank them publicly for all that effort. It's not always remarked upon, and I wanted to just thank them.
Yes, absolutely, and it looks like council shares that gratitude. It was a once in a lifetime storm, bomb cyclone that we experienced, and I know specifically with this council, these are people who notice if our streets are flooding or not, and
some of us went out with a rake to a couple of the storm drains.
Absolutely.
And it's not a once in a lifetime. Supposedly it's coming back next week. There's a second one. Yeah.
Ooh, well, we had the most significant leaf drop already, I hope. Member Medina?
If I can add on to that, thank you so much, Public Works. I went for a run the next morning and I expected it to be a disaster, and it was like shockingly clear in the morning. And I saw like people coming out to like also go run or walk, and everyone was like, oh, this is okay. It was noticed by the community. Great work.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for keeping our infrastructure free and clear. That brings us to ex parte communications. Colleagues, does anyone have anything to report? I did communicate with Mayor Libby Schaaf on item 12.2. And that'll take us to the public comment portion of this meeting. Now is the time for public comment. Anyone who wishes to make comments related to items not on the agenda or on the consent agenda should have submitted your online speaker card by now. 3 minutes will be allowed for the city clerk to read your comments into the record. If you are participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press *9. At this time, I will ask the city clerk whether any comments have been received via the online comment card or whether anyone has raised their hand to make audio comments.
I have no comment cards and I don't see any raised hands.
Very good. In that case, public comment is now closed. That'll bring us to the consent agenda, and I'll remind you that I have removed item 10.6, and it would go where action items would go. So it'll come right before, I put it into action items, so it'll come in 12. Sorry, I should have put it right after the consent agenda. But is there a motion on the consent calendar minus item 10.6?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Member Medina and a second by Vice Mayor Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. Very good. Next up, we have a public hearing. This is item 11.1. And do we have our staff who is going to do this presentation, Sherry?
We do. One moment, please. I believe I will be bringing up Miru Desai. One moment. And Charlie, just in case. And then I'll bring up Miru. Are you ready for your presentation to be brought up?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, welcome, Miru. I will cede the floor to you and begin as you see fit when the presentation comes up.
Yes, good evening again. Let's see, just give me a couple of seconds for the presentation to come up, and there it is. So this is a noise waiver for Saturday work to for a crane lift to replace the boilers at the 6001 Shellmount Street. This is an office tower in the marketplace. Next slide, please.
One moment. There we go.
So this is the building that we're talking about, and the boilers are on the rooftop. Next slide, please. So this Saturday work will be done on November 20th between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. A crane, as I mentioned, will be employed. There will be one delivery truck which will bring in the new boilers and remove the old ones, and a total of 8 employees will be present during this time. Next slide, please. So this is sort of the location of the work. The crane placement is the box in blue, which will be on 62nd Street between Market Drive and Shellmount Street. That would be where the crane will place itself. Next slide, please. And this is sort of a graphic of how where the crane will be and how the work would occur. And there are some details along the crane if anyone is interested. Next slide, please. So in terms of notification, all the property owners and the site addresses within 300 feet of the site were noticed, as well as there was a legal advertisement in the Oakland Tribune. So this includes all the residents in the building next door, as well as on parcel A. Next slide, please. Staff believes that the request for the Saturday work is reasonable, as given the nature of the work, hot water needs to be turned off for the boilers to be replaced, and the best time to do that would be when building is vacant, and that would be on a weekend, so, and hence the request for Saturday work. Next slide. So that really concludes my presentation, and we are recommending approval subject to the conditions of approval. The applicant is present if you have any questions for him.
Colleagues, are there any clarifying questions at this time? Okay, seeing none. I will go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:43. Now is the time for public comment. If you're joining us via Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, you may press *9. At this time, I will ask if the city clerk has received any electronic comments or speaker cards.
No electronic speaker cards.
And I am just giving a second for anyone who's joining us who wishes to speak to go ahead and raise their hands. And seeing no hands raised, I'm going to close public comment, close the public hearing at 7:44 p.m. and bring this back to my colleagues for deliberation, or if there's none, I would be happy to entertain a motion.
I move approval of this.
Second the motion.
All right, we have a motion by Member Donahue and a second by Member Bowders on the resolution. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
And that'll bring us back to item 10.6. This is an adoption of a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Clifford Moss to assess possible revenue measure opportunities for 2022. And we just need to appoint an ad hoc committee to work with Clifford Moss on the polling. And colleagues, with your indulgence, I'd like to make a motion that myself and Member Medina are the ad hoc committee.
Second the motion.
Thank you. So, any deliberation? Member Medina, would you accept being?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Great. So we have a motion by myself and a second by Member Bowders. Please call the roll.
Madam Mayor, we need public comment on this item.
Oh, well, we took public comment on the. Oh, yeah, you're right.
We pulled it from the consent calendar.
You're right. Let's pull it. Thank you. I appreciate that. Madam City Clerk, has anyone submitted a speaker card for item 10.6?
Madam Mayor, if I could just jump in.
Yeah.
Item 10.6 includes two actions. One is an authorization of the contract with Clifford Moss, and the second is the appointment of the ad hoc committee. You could take those in two motions or one, but just for purposes of public comment, I want to make that clear.
Thank you. And I will amend my motion to include authorization of the contract as well as appointing the ad hoc committee. Is that amenable to the seconder?
That's correct. I second that motion.
Very good. Okay, now I'll check in with the city clerk, see if anyone has submitted comment on 10.6.
I see no comment cards and no raised hands at this time.
Thank you. And I'll just remind the public that if you wish to be recognized in this meeting, you would just use the raise hand feature in Zoom, or if you're calling in, press *6. And still seeing no hands raised, I will turn to the clerk and say, go ahead and call the roll on 10.6.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. And now we're back on track for action item 12.1. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Emeryville adding section 6-4.25 organics reduction and recycling to the Emeryville Municipal Code. And I will cede the floor to staff to present.
Okay,
We have Matt Anderson here. Matt, are you City of Emeryville Public Works?
I am indeed.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you. Sherry, is there a presentation available?
There is. One moment, please. Sorry, one moment. There you are. Okay, can everyone see that?
So Sherry Hart's start. Oh, there it is. Yes.
Perfect. All right. Good evening, council members, Madam Mayor. Matt Anderson, Environmental Programs Technician in Public Works. Today I'm bringing for your consideration an ordinance that's opting into the Regional Organics Reduction and Recycling Ordinance, which was developed by Stop Waste, the Regional Waste Reduction JPA. Next slide, please. A little bit of background on the ORO, what it's about and where it's from. This derives from state legislation, Senate Bill 1383, which was passed in 2016 with the goal of reducing greenhouse gases in the waste stream from organic material. Specific targets of that bill include reducing or diverting 75% of the existing organic material in the waste stream by 2025 and increasing by 20% the amount of edible food recovered from the waste stream by 2025. One of the requirements of SB 1383 is that each local jurisdiction adopt enforceable mechanisms so to implement 1383 requirements in their jurisdiction. Regionally, that was implemented by Stop Waste, who has generally taken the lead in the implementation of recycling and organics regulations in Alameda County. So this was developed as a countywide ordinance and made in a format where cities can opt in if they choose, or if they desire to make their own ordinance and own mechanisms, they can do that as well. The text from this ORO that was, this is the Stop Waste version, is almost directly from state regulation, and it includes a phased-in implementation that's consistent with the state regulation beginning in January 1st, 2022, and next phases in January 1st, 2024. Next slide, please. So kind of a high-level overview of what the ORO is. It's essentially an expansion on the existing mandatory recycling ordinance to now include organics requirements for all organics generators as well. You can see on this chart kind of the main points of what the ORO requires. So going through them briefly, under current regulation, businesses and multifamily properties are required to have, most businesses and multifamily properties are required to have organics and recycling pickup. This would extend the requirements to all businesses and all multifamily properties that generate organics in 2022 and all single family residences in 2024. And I forgot to mention, if you can't see the key in the bottom right, green is existing requirements under current legislation, and red X's are the expansion of requirements under the new ORO that's being proposed. And just a note on the new provision of service requirements, which is requiring these generators to have organic service. In our current contract with Waste Management, our hauler, all businesses that create less than 2 cubic yards of waste per week can receive free organics and recycling service, and that's the entirety of the new sector that's covered under this. So this would not be any new monetary requirements for this provision of service here. One additional requirement of the ORO is the requirement to sort waste streams correctly, organics into organics, recycling into recycling. This is already required for businesses, but it would expand to apartment complexes and single family residents. This is already completed or being implemented in Emeryville under the Waste Management Smart Truck program that was rolled out earlier this year. So there will be no change for that. The ORO, as I said, it supersedes the existing recycling regulation, so it continues the requirements for businesses and multi-family property owners to provide information on recycling and organics when tenants move in, and as well as an annual informational update. One expansion of the ORO, or 3 expansions actually going through the end of this. The first one would be that where there are waste bins indoor that are provided for tenants or business tenants or residents to throw items away, there also be a recycling and an organics container provided. So essentially there's 3 streams everywhere. You're able to compost and recycle anywhere you are able to. A note on that one as well, through Stop Waste currently, our JPA, free indoor organics bins are offered to businesses, and the City of Emeryville staff, City of Emeryville offers supplementary recycling and waste indoor bins for up to a certain dollar valuation that for businesses if they request them. The 2 final requirements or expansions in the ORO are that businesses and multifamily properties periodically check bins and then provide feedback to the residents or tenants on proper sorting. And the final one is for high organics generators, some of the large supermarkets with edible food generation, that they develop a food recovery plan and create contracts with food recovery organizations to increase the amount of edible food that's recovered from the waste stream, and then edible food recovery organizations, which in Emeryville I think is it is only ECAP essentially, have a way to track the poundage of food that they receive and how much of it is spoiled and various other items. There are a few minimal requirements for waste management that pertain to maintenance of data for this, and then providing outreach and education assistance as well. Next slide, please. So that was the ORO in a nutshell. It's really been designed to allow for easy fulfillment of state requirements. The alternative would be City of Emeryville developing their own ordinance that would then be inconsistent across the county and would not allow for stop waste staff and Alameda County Department of Environmental Health staff to assist in implementation, which is a key point of this ORO, and part of the reason why we're recommending it. So next steps would be the council. This is a first reading. Adopting this first reading, second reading would come to council at the next meeting. Then the requirements would begin starting January 1st, 2022 for the larger apartment complexes and the businesses for having commercial service pickups, as well as the indoor bin requirements. And then the large food generators, large supermarkets, and wholesale food distributors, things like that would be required to start having those food recovery contracts in place. And then in 2024, it would expand to these single-family residents as well, and then ECAP and any other edible food recovery organizations, as well as some of the smaller food generators, which includes some of the medium-sized restaurants and other food organizations. Two quick additional notes before we end. This has been a while coming, but the rules from CalRecycle were delayed, how this would specifically be implemented until the end of last year. And given COVID, there wasn't a significant amount of time for cities to prepare for implementation. And at the end of this legislative cycle, the Senate passed a bill that allows for a delay in the enforcement of some of these requirements, specifically for the city requirements. So this ORO is an adoption of a portion of the SB 1383 regs, and there will be an additional council update coming at a future meeting about some of the other SB 1383 requirements that are specific to just the city, such as annual procurement of organic material and purchasing of recycled and recyclable content paper, things like that. So SB 619 has given us a slight reprieve on that. But that, in a nutshell, is the ORO, and I'm happy to answer questions, or there are representatives, I believe, from both Stop Waste and Waste Management available if you have any questions.
Thank you. I see a question from Vice Mayor Donahue.
Is Waste Management currently burning off methane or using it in their vehicles from the organic waste stream?
They are using renewable natural gas vehicles. I don't know the source of that natural gas. I would have to get back to you on that. I don't know if Lena Gonzalez is on the call and could answer that, but I could get that and get back to you.
Yeah, from the questions I've had at Stop Waste on this same issue, Vice Mayor Donahue, the fuel that is being used for our waste management vehicles is, we don't get credit for diversion under SB, I'm losing the number, it's getting late, but under this ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other clarifying questions for staff? Member Bowders.
My question comes back to the enforcement of these provisions, and in reading the ordinance, it makes it clear that the city can enforce and does enforce in some cases, and that the waste management can enforce. And can you talk a little bit about that? Because I'm not really certain I fully understand or agree with the enforcement provisions.
Absolutely. And actually, Sherry, could I ask you to pull up the slide deck again and pull up slide number 7?
Where'd it go? Okay. So I'm going past where we had stopped before?
Three more slides.
Okay. Is that it?
There. That's the one. In regards to kind of the enforcement, you can see here both the enforcement dates and who would be responsible for enforcing which requirement of 1383. And
yeah, so can I ask you about proper sorting January of 22, jurisdictions and haulers? So is this coming back to the conversation we had, I feel like 2 years ago, about trucks that have cameras on them?
Yes, and that program is currently rolled out within Emeryville.
So what do we do when we have, I mean, we haven't had that presentation back to us yet. There were a lot of questions. I know I had a lot of questions at that meeting about how we were gonna, you know, how do you know some person didn't walk and dump their bag of trash from their fast food restaurant, you know, in the recycle bin of someone else, like, you know, all these kinds of issues. And trash cans, like my HOA is 20 units and they're all out on the curb together, and some of them have numbers on them and some don't. So like, how in January do we ensure that residents, you know, don't get like, we don't have a problem?
So for the sorting requirement, nothing is actually changing there. The Smart Truck program is rolled out within Emeryville already, and you should have received notice of that at your residence. And if you haven't, please let me know, because that should have been passed along. But that's not going to change anything that's happening currently within Emeryville.
So we're as a city going to be fining people?
No, the enforcement for contamination happens from Waste Management, and that's written into the contract that was extended at the end of last year with Waste Management.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand the chart then, because it says jurisdictions are the enforcers of proper sorting, so I'm not sure I follow, but.
Sure, so it's jurisdictions and haulers. It's kind of a combined column, but in this case, we already have
we've
designated
agreed to someone else doing it, even though it's
Yes.
legally could be either. You're saying we've agreed to have someone else do it. So we're not going to be in the business of writing citations for this.
Correct. The one provision of service that we haven't designated to anyone else is the requirement for single-family residential residences to have organic services. It's a free service that's offered through Waste Management, and we've already done an initial review. I've asked Waste Management to go over all the single-family residence accounts, and we have something like a 93% organic subscription rate in Emeryville, and the ones that are not subscribed are due to space reasons, essentially. So there won't be any issues there that we foresee.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions for staff or for Waste Management or anyone else? All right, we'll bring it open for public comment. I'll check in with our clerk, see if anyone has submitted electronic comment or speaker cards for this item.
No speaker cards, and I'm not seeing any raised hands either.
Okay, very good. Colleagues, I'm bringing this back for motion to read by title only, or sorry, for deliberation. Does anyone have any discussion on this item? No. Well, then we'll take a motion to read by title only.
I move to read by title only.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Member Donahue, a second by Member Medina. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. And Andrew, would you do the honor?
Sure. Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Emeryville adding section 6-4.25, organics reduction in the recycling, to the City of Emeryville Municipal Code to adopt by reference ordinance number 2021-02, organics reduction and recycling ordinance of the Alameda County Waste Management Authority, authorizing the Alameda County Waste Management Authority and Alameda County Department of Environmental Health to enforce ORO in the City of Emeryville, and authorizing the city manager to take actions related to implementation and enforcement of the ORO. CEQA determination exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15308.
Thank you, and my apologies. I think I took this a little bit out of order, so I will check again with our clerk to see if anyone has submitted public comment, a speaker card or public comment for this item?
No public comments of any kind.
No public comments, and I see no raised hands. And I'll remind viewers who are joining us, you can use the raise hand feature in Zoom, or you can press star 9 to raise your hand. And that will bring us to, is there a motion to adopt the first reading of this ordinance?
I move adoption.
I'll second.
A motion by Member Donahue, a second by Member Medina. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. That'll bring us to item 12.2. This is council consideration of adopting a resolution in support of the waterfront ballpark district at Howard Terminal. And I will just note for my colleagues that the County Board of Supervisors did hear this item on October 26th, and there was a vote 4-1 to have a non-binding resolution, I believe, with the intent of exploring an EIFD for Howard Terminal. So the actual event that this resolution and this draft letter of support are for has passed. However, in talking with the office of the mayor of the city of Oakland, there was a request for us to go ahead and get a resolution in support on the record should we want to. So are there any questions about the letter or the staff report attached to this item?
I have comments, not questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I just questioned, it's a non-binding vote that they took, so I'm just questioning whether we could just table this until they decide they actually want to adopt the EIFD, because then we could still vote to do this. So that's just my suggestion. It's like, we don't have to do this right now because it didn't do anything binding.
It's true, but it just would signal support for when they bring back a binding vote, if we were to pass this resolution. Any other questions before I open it up for public comment? Okay, I will check with our clerk at this time to see if anyone has submitted a speaker card or electronic comment on this item.
No speaker cards and no raised hands.
That is something, considering the fact that all the cities that took this up before October 26th got very lengthy lists of public speakers. So I guess either all the A's fans have calmed down and moved on, or we don't have that many in our city, which I doubt. But anyway, I will bring it back to my colleagues for deliberation and consideration of the resolution and the draft letter of support to the County Board of Supervisors. Does anyone have any thoughts on Howard Terminal, supported by Alameda Labor Council and building trades, and would bring many jobs and much housing to an area otherwise inaccessible at the port?
In this case, you mean it would be accessible via large gondola?
There's some details still to be worked out.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah. Indeed, yes.
Well, isn't somebody going to mention the game of baseball?
No, won't be me.
I would just note that the resolution we have, the resolve clause, is asking the Board of Supervisors to indicate their support for opting in, which is what they've already done.
No, yeah, I realize that, Member Bowders, and I brought this up with the mayor's office, and as it stands, they still would request our support. So if there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and move the resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there is a motion by myself, a second by Member Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Due to the issue being moot, I'm not voting.
Councilmember Medina.
It's going to abstain.
Yeah, I abstain. That's what I did.
Yeah, what if, can two of us abstain?
Then there's no, the motion will fail if you abstain.
Did you abstain, or did you say, can I abstain?
Oh, I mean, I abstain.
Okay, very good.
That's my vote.
Carrie.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Yes.
And Mayor
I mean,
Martinez?
aye.
And Mayor Martinez?
Aye. Motion fails due to a lack of majority.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a different motion.
Sure, good.
I'd like to continue this item until such time for rediscussion as the Board of Supervisors takes action on a proposed EIFD.
Very good. I'll second your motion with the option to go ahead and change that resolved clause to make it more appropriate to this.
So I'm not proposing to change it. I'm making a motion to table, to continue this whole discussion. So I'm not approving a resolution in my motion.
No,
I'm just saying,
I understand. I totally get it. I'm just saying in the future, we'll change that resolve clause.
yeah, I would be happy to revisit the resolution and change it to be appropriate, but I'm just giving it a lifeline to a future date. That's all I'm offering to do.
Very
So
good.
make a motion to continue.
And I'll second. And Sherry, please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez?
Aye. That'll bring us to item 13. This is department head reports, and we have a few things to report on from our planning department. Is Charlie still with us?
He is.
I am still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. This is my regular monthly report on the recent actions of the Planning Commission. Their last meeting was last Thursday, October 28th. I would note that all 7 commissioners were present at the meeting, but we did have some recusals on various items. There were 4 items on the agenda as listed here on your agenda. On the first 2 items, Commissioner Chafe was recused because she owns her residence within 500 feet of both of them. They are across the street from each other. The first one was a 2-unit replacement at 1270 64th Street. This requires City Council approval ultimately because it involves the demolition of existing residential units, and the Commission voted 6-0 unanimously, with 1 commissioner recused, to recommend that the City Council approve this project. The second item was a similar project, but it's 4 units, replacing 4 existing units with 4 new ones at 1271 64th Street. And again, the Commission voted 6-0 to recommend that the City Council approve this project. We do have these 2 items scheduled for your consideration of approval at your December 21st meeting. The next item was a study session on the Marketplace Redevelopment Project, which was the same study session that you held earlier tonight. The Commission did have a number of comments, and Miru has already reported to you on what those comments were, so I will not repeat that. And then finally, they had a study session on the housing element of the general plan, and they did have a few comments on that. We have that scheduled for your consideration at your next meeting on November 16th. I will note, however, that it will be on your regular agenda because we have another rather lengthy study session on the same agenda. So this will be on your regular agenda as an action item just for a presentation and your feedback at your November 16th meeting. And that concludes my report. I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Any questions on the planning director's report? Nope, seeing none. Thank you, Charlie. That'll bring us to item 14. This is future agenda item requests from council members. Does anyone have anything brewing? Member Medina.
Yeah, actually, now that I'm about to say it, maybe it's better for Transportation Committee, but I'd like to request the City Council maybe direct the Transportation Committee to work on possible next steps after the passage of AB 43, which allows the city to lower speed limits in certain streets, and come back to City Council with a report on what our capabilities are here.
Yes, support. Okay, that's unanimous support. All right, anything else? No? Okay. Well, that takes us to adjournment. It is 8:14 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there. It's been a long one for some of us. So thanks for bearing with me through some stumbles. but we got through it. All right. See ya.
Goodbye. Good night.